Welcome to the Explainer. For a while now, we've all known AI is incredibly powerful. But right now, we are literally witnessing the exact moment it transitions from just being this hyped-up digital novelty into hard physical, economic, and workforce reality. We're pulling directly from a recent curation of the top 5 industry stories from May 2026, just to see exactly how this maturation is playing out on the global stage.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our roadmap for today's Explainer. First, the trillion-dollar AI bubble. Second, walking back job loss claims. Third, the agentic AI workforce shift. Fourth, beyond Moore's Law. And finally, AI dashcams as digital seatbelts.
So, starting off with Section 1, the trillion-dollar AI bubble. First up, we absolutely have to talk about the sheer volume of money moving through this space right now. Feeling pretty rejuvenated by that recent decisive court victory over Elon Musk, OpenAI is currently preparing for some massive financial maneuvers. And honestly, their leverage is crystal clear. Looking at the April 2026 traffic data from SimilarWeb, ChatGPT is just dominating with 54% of generative AI traffic, compared to a mere 3% for competitors like Grok.
And that massive market share leads us directly to this absolute eye-watering number, $1 trillion. Yep, according to reports from Reuters and the Wall Street Journal, OpenAI is planning to confidentially file paperwork in the coming weeks for an initial public offering slated for September 2026. This move could potentially value the company at up to $1 trillion. I mean, that makes it one of the largest IPOs in history.
Just to put that into perspective for a second, PitchBook data shows that OpenAI has already raised $186 billion. So for a trailblazing startup of this size, jumping into the public markets is really just the natural next step, right? But the timing here is heavily reliant on the broader market. This June, we've got the incumbent SpaceX AI listing happening. If they manage to secure their anticipated $1.75 trillion valuation, well, that's going to act as a massive yardstick. It'll completely test the institutional investor appetite and could actually cause OpenAI's valuation to skyrocket even further by September.
Moving right along to Section 2, walking back job loss claims.
Now, what's really interesting here is how these impending multi-trillion-dollar IPOs are forcing a pretty sudden and dramatic PR pivot from top AI executives. There is a totally stark contrast between what we were hearing just recently and what's being said today. I mean, for years, leaders like Sam Altman and Dario Amodei were out there warning that AI would completely dismantle white-collar employment. But today, they're totally backtracking. They are actually admitting their predictions were incorrect, and instead, they're suddenly aligning much more closely with traditional financial leaders.
Observers are neutrally pointing out a very, very clear correlation here. This sudden narrative shift directly coincides with the public listings marked on the calendar for both OpenAI and Anthropic this year. Think about it. When you have multi-trillion-dollar market debuts on the line, projecting massive societal disruption and threatening the global workforce, well, that's generally not an effective marketing strategy for wooing cautious, stability-focused institutional investors, is it?
All right, let's head into Section 3, the agentic AI workforce shift.
So, moving past all the marketing spin for a second, what is actually happening on the ground? Take the global tech company Cloudflare, for example. They recently announced a 20% workforce reduction. But in a recent Wall Street Journal op-ed, CEO Matthew Prince framed this not just as simple cost-cutting, but as an operational redefinition. He actually called it a strategic reset for the agentic AI era, which is meant to bring their teams much closer to their customers and the actual products.
Now, to understand exactly who gets affected by this 20% reduction, we really need to look at a very specific corporate term Cloudflare used here, measurers. Prince defines measurers as the people sitting in middle management, finance, legal, and internal audit functions. This is super important because it signals precisely where Cloudflare believes human strengths remain highly durable, which is mainly in creative and customer-facing roles, and exactly where AI systems are now capable enough to just assume the routine measurement and reporting work.
Let's move to Section 4 and see how this builds. Beyond Moore's Law, into Tau scaling. This shift we're seeing extends directly into the physical hardware realm, too.
I mean, for more than 5 decades, the semiconductor industry has basically relied on Moore's law, shrinking transistors down on flat two-dimensional grids. But as computing requires these massive, rapid breakthroughs for AI, those transistors are literally hitting atomic and physical constraints. So, a totally new principle was just unveiled at the 2026 IEEE Symposium in Shanghai, the Tau scaling law. Instead of just shrinking transistors, this law focuses on three-dimensional layouts known as logic folding. It's kind of like building skyscrapers instead of sprawling suburbs, just to drastically shorten the commute time for the data.
This absolutely groundbreaking approach was unveiled in a keynote by Huawei co-president He Tingbo. Actually, it's so significant that her peers and colleagues have already taken to calling it Her's Law in her honor. Basically, this methodology acts as a multi-level co-optimization mechanism. It spans all the way across semiconductor devices, circuits, chips, and entire systems. The goal? To dramatically shorten data travel times and bypass those old physical grid limits. This is what's going to drive up the speed and energy efficiency that the AI industry desperately requires right now to keep scaling.
And that brings us to our final story. Section 5, AI dashcams as digital seatbelts.
Finally, we are moving totally out of the corporate server rooms and right onto our physical roads. The crucial point here is posed by Kingsley Hughes Morgan, who is a senior engineering director over at Samsara. He suggests that the transport industry is at a major turning point right now, and he asks a really fascinating question. Should AI dashcams become the digital seatbelts of modern fleets? The metaphor here is just incredibly powerful. Think about it. For decades, physical seatbelts faced massive public resistance before they ever became a legal requirement. But today, their role in saving lives is absolutely unquestioned. In a recent Q&A, Hughes Morgan explains that mandating AI-powered safety technology in modern fleets could follow the exact same trajectory. By pushing past that initial resistance, integrating AI dashcams could ultimately define the entire next generation of transport safety. We're talking about shifting from an optional, neat tech novelty to an absolute, necessary, life-saving requirement.
And that really brings us to the ultimate takeaway from all these distinct but deeply connected stories today. We are literally watching AI evolve from a speculative software bubble into an absolute anchor of the global economy and our physical infrastructure. From the astronomical valuations of OpenAI and the suddenly shifting PR narratives of tech CEOs, all the way down to the restructuring of middle management, the atomic-level reinvention of computer chips, and even the very safety rules on our roads, the maturation is absolutely here. So, as you process all these massive changes, how will you adapt as AI enters hard reality? Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer, and definitely keep exploring these incredible shifts.